Well, it's 2024 and I haven't done a video in quite some time, so let's get started. I recently subscribed to a channel called Damon's Real Texas Barbecue, and this young man has some really interesting videos and recipes, and one of his recipes was a pork butt marinated in cherry Dr. Pepper. Now, I've never marinated pork butt before, and I thought, okay, let's give it a try. I believe the young man's name is Mr. Cruz, and he sells this at his restaurant. So here I am, marinating the pork butt in a heavy-duty food grade bag, and I thought, okay, let's give this a try. And then it occurred to me, I've never marinated ribs before. So I thought, okay, well, if we're going to marinate a pork butt, let's go ahead and marinate a slab of spare ribs. So, after getting the pork butt secured, I decided to trim up a slab of spare ribs. Here I have a full-size slab of spare ribs. I'm going to remove the flap or skirt or whatever it is you want to call it. I did take the membrane off and I removed the chine bone. Put this in the straight cherry Dr. Pepper, no seasonings, nothing of that nature. After I got it into some marinade, I let it sit overnight, and let's get it rubbed up with some cherry rub, and we'll see how these ribs and pork butt will come out. Now, my thought about lighting my smokers is always, if I'm going to cook something, let's cook as much as we can. No need to waste fuel. So as a lover of brisket, I did throw on a brisket in this cook. And I chose not to show the trimming and the seasoning for that. But actually, the brisket itself also came out very well. My goal was, frankly, to get a lot of feedback on this particular cook and how these proteins came out, because I have been considering selling barbecue on a very limited basis, taking orders on the weekends, and this was prompted by some feedback that I've been getting from individuals at work, individuals on my daughter's job. So I thought I'd give it a shot. Let's see how this recipe turns out, because this may be something that I want to consider to use in the future. So once again, I decided to use Heath Rowell's Cherry Rub. Here you see me taking the pork butt out of the marinade. Want to make sure that nothing gets contaminated. And really seasoned it up pretty heavy. So as you can see, I scored the fat cap, but did very limited trimming. I take out the membrane and that gland that's on one side, and there's some other stuff that is kind of icky on the other. So I try to always take that out. I'd rather take it out beforehand as opposed to when I'm shredding it up. Now, to add a little more spice and a little kick to it, I did use Killer Hog's hot rub, and I really wanted to focus on a rub, or combine two rubs, that would give it that red color. So I thought the hot rub would be a good base, and then, of course, I would use the Heath Rowell's Cherry Rub on top, and it seemed to turn out pretty well, especially color-wise. So here we go. As I said, this shows me seasoning the pork butt up, and I decided to use the same combination of rub on the spare ribs. So I really was working to keep the cherry profile as strong as I possibly could. Cherry marinade, cherry rub, and finally, later in the video, I believe I used the Cosmo Q's cherry habanero barbecue sauce. I did thin it down with a little cherry Dr. Pepper, just to get it to stretch a little bit. But overall, I think I did a very good job of keeping this flavor profile online, and definitely focused on that cherry flavor. Here you see I've got the pork butt on with the brisket and using my 22.5 inch, and here are the ribs on my 18.5 inch Weber Smoky Mountains. These are usually my go-to in the wintertime because I can pretty much just relax. I didn't use any temp controllers, so this just basically set it. And as you can see, it was pretty windy, but they did an excellent job. Now here, I've taken the pork butt off after hitting about 175, 180, and we're just reinforcing it with some Killer Hogs, some Heath Rouse rub, a little tiger sauce, a little turbinado sugar, some butter, and finally some cherry 100% cherry juice. And believe me, I actually had a hard time trying to find this cherry juice, and because I didn't want anything that had a lot of sugar in it. So it turned out very well, and I think this is definitely going to be something that I may consider doing in the future. And here I'm wrapping the spare ribs after they hit 170 in the same ingredients: Killer Hogs, hot, Heath Rouse cherry, some apple cider vinegar, tiger sauce, as well as some of the juice. And in this footage, the brisket hit 170, 175. I've tried to start going to a much higher temperature and allowing it to cook, as opposed to pulling it at 165. I find 170 to 175 seems to be producing a better product. I just four-bolted it up, which has become my usual go-to now. And I did cook this one fat side up. I wanted to point out I did use Cattleman's tri-tip rub, as well as some Killer Hogs AP rub for the brisket. And I also poured over a little tallow that I had used after using some render fat from a previous brisket over the top as part of the process. And as I said, as a brisket lover, regardless of what I cook, I always try to include a brisket in there. So here we see the pork butt and the brisket after it's been bolted up, and things are looking pretty good at this point. Here you see me unwrapping the ribs. I was very, very satisfied with the color. They were definitely loose and done. I'm just glad they weren't overly cooked. I wanted to tighten these up a little bit. So one of the processes that I'm exploring is holding these things and trying to figure out how can I hold ribs without overcooking them and then literally just turning them into mush. And the method that I decided on this particular time was to wrap it in butcher paper. Here you see me after they had cooled down to about oh, maybe 145, 150. I wrap them in butcher paper, and I'm going to spray this down with a little apple cider vinegar and water, and we're going to let these sit in my Breville, one of the Brevils, overnight at about 135 degrees. As I said, uh, because I'm considering selling barbecue, I'm trying to figure out the best methods for holding ribs. Uh, I figured out what I like to do with brisket, and it's been very effective. But holding ribs tends to overcook them, so this is an experiment more than anything. And here you see me finishing these up, and then but prior to that, I actually, well, here we see we putting them into a combination of butcher paper and foil in the Breville. I think I started off at 140 degrees, but would later back it down to about 135. Well, here the brisket is done. The bark looked great, and this is the process that I typically use for my briskets, and it has been spot on. I'll wrap in butcher paper, starting the fat side up. Spray the butcher paper with apple cider vinegar. After getting it nice and tight, I wrap it in plastic wrap, and then I place it in a warmer or my Breville. You probably anywhere now from 145 to 150. I think 150 has been more effective for me. I want to make sure that there is no food contamination, so I raise that temperature. And this overnight extended rest, I think I went about 9 or 10 hours. I would later cut this the following morning. So this process has been really, really effective for me. So starting with the butcher paper, then wrapping in plastic wrap with the extended rest. Uh, this is one of the reasons why I'm trying to focus on how do I hold ribs. I've figured out how to hold my briskets. So what I want to learn how to do now is hold ribs so I can do these things in advance. So I don't have to do them the day of. It's a lot less stressful, and so it is a process, and I'm still learning. Well, here I'm pulling the pork butt. I think it hit about 203, and as you can see, the that built-in instant read thermometer came out clean. The pork was moist and tender. I re-seasoned with some cherry rub. It really wasn't much need to add any more moisture. Uh, because I actually, well, I didn't inject this pork, but that cherry Dr. Pepper, the flavor was very, very prevalent. So all I did was just add a little bit more seasoning, and as I said, it actually came out very, very well. Now here I've let the ribs sit overnight in the combination of foil and butcher paper. On the surface, they look kind of dry, but I can tell you the interior was actually very, very moist. So I add a little more rub, and here I'm using the combination of Cosmo Q's cherry habanero barbecue sauce as combined with some cherry Dr. Pepper to thin it out. And here I'm just painting it on, and it, like I said, it looked a little dry after sitting overnight at 130. 125 degrees. I would systematically turn the Breville down because I was really concerned about overcooking these things. But it seems like I may be onto something with this particular method of holding ribs. So it's definitely something I'm going to have to continue to work on. Now, I want to backtrack very quickly and point out that I did pull the pulled pork and let it rest after pulling it. But the brisket and the ribs, I actually are slicing the next morning. Here, the brisket is being sliced, and I was, once again, I'm a big brisket fan. I like the way my bark held together. This is a choice grade brisket that I picked up at Walmart. Here, I've got some of the renderings where I just kind of paint the cutting board. So as I'm slicing, I try to keep it moist. I know brisket starts to dry out quite quickly, so I'm not a big fan of squeezing the brisket. What juices I want to leave in there as long as I possibly can. Uh, but once again, I was very happy with my brisket game. Uh, I don't want to say I've got it down, but I'm definitely about 98% there. It's been a while since I had a bad brisket, so uh, I'm going to keep utilizing this particular method that I've been utilizing. And as I said, I think it's very beneficial being able to do these 1 and 2 days in advance and then pulling them out of a warmer and getting these type of results. So very happy with the outcome thus far on the ribs, the pork butt, and definitely the brisket. And finally, here I am packing up the barbecue, the pulled pork, brisket, and spare ribs to deliver to some of my coworkers on the job. Uh, Once again, the pulled pork came out really nice and moist, and the color definitely was influenced by the marinade as well as the rub. Uh, I'm really trying to perfect my methods here, specifically on holding ribs. So this video was a combination of experimentation and perfecting specific methods. So um, here, the brisket, after I've touched it up with a little of the renderings, I'm packing up, and I've got the cellophane trays lined with foil because I do intend to deliver this in I guess you could say an insulated bag. But I thought, well, this really helps in keeping the food moist, especially if you're taking a 20-30 minute drive. So just trying to get down my methods, trying to perfect it. Hopefully, this will be something that I'll be continue to do. So I really appreciate everyone watching. Definitely not a perfect cook, just a backyard guy. So if anyone has any feedback, anything constructive can help me going forward, I would greatly appreciate it. So once again, thank you for watching BJ's Backyard Buckeye Barbecue. Have a good one.